Welcome to another edition of the 80s Review Show. This is the last video for today. We are going to do the best kids animated movies of the 80s. Or basically fun movies from the 80s that everybody pretty much knows about. Um, so before we get into the list, there are a few movies that I wanted to talk about to begin with. The first one is The Goonies. Now, I think The Goonies, honestly, is one of the best directed movies, honestly, for a kids movie from that era. Because, for one thing, it is scary a little bit, but at the same time, um, it has great humor in it. Lots of great '80s music involved with it. I mean, the Truffle Shuffle, for God's sakes, is hilarious. Yeah, you can't go wrong with the Goonies, honestly. It's one of those movies that is just flat out awesome. Um, the Labyrinth is the next one we're going to talk about with David Bowie. That is another movie that is a Jim Henson movie, but it is kind of dark. But it's a great movie for all generations to watch now, especially since Bowie's not around with us anymore. Rest in peace, Bowie. I really loved everything you did in your career. You were a great musician and an actor, and you should be acknowledged for that role. The next one is The Dark Crystal. I think The Dark Crystal should be on this countdown, on this list. I think it's a great movie. And yeah, those are just a few I wanted to talk about. And The Karate Kid, obviously, as well. That needs to be on here, too. And Back to the Future, obviously. Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventures. Those need to be acknowledged in this, too. Let's start getting into the list. The first one on the list is Kiki's Delivery Service, which is an anime movie, but uh, by far it's one of the best anime movies I've ever watched my whole entire life, frankly. It's got a great cast, a great plot to it. Um, the next one is Castle in the Sky. That's another anime movie, but it's well directed. It's got great storyline, and it just has that really nice Japanese feel to it. It's just a great movie for any kid to watch. Um, the next one is Transformers, the movie. This is the animated movie from the 80s. I like that movie, actually. I thought it was pretty decent. It's definitely uh, follows the cartoon, and frankly, I think it's even better than some of the more modern cartoons of Transformers. Um, G.I. Joe, the movie, is the next one, and I think that should be on here because it was definitely a great movie. I enjoyed it. Um, Scooby Doo meets the Boo Brothers. I remember that because they used to play it on Cartoon Network all the time. It was really funny. The next one is Scooby Doo meets the Werewolf, which is a parody of an older Scooby Doo episode from the 1970s, but they made it into an animated movie, and it wasn't too bad. Even Vincent Price shows up in it. Um, okay, hang on here. Let's turn the page over here. Okay, The Brave Little Toaster. Again, that was another movie from my childhood that was amazing, honestly, and great. Um, An American Tail, which is by far one of the best animated movies ever made, in my opinion. The Land Before Time. Who doesn't know that movie? That's a great movie. All Dogs Go to Heaven. The Little Mermaid. The Jetsons Meet the Flintstones. Heavy Metal. Care Bears the movie. Daffy Duck Quackbusters. Chipmunks, the Chipmunks Adventure movie, which is the original cartoon movie. The Garfield Christmas and Halloween specials. Charlie Brown, The Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown. Um, I'm just gonna say all the all the Peanut movies from the '80s are honestly pretty good. Okay, I think we're good on that one. Okay, I've done that list. Now we're gonna go to this one. Now this is the list where people might know a little bit more on. So Who Framed Roger Rabbit? Okay, if you've never seen Roger Rabbit, then you are like totally living underneath a rock because Roger Rabbit is awesome. What more could I say about that movie? It has every single cartoon character in the movie, plus the guy that played Doc in Back to the Future is in the movie. He plays the evil detective. So, yeah, I mean, I just think Roger Rabbit is one of those movies that some people could honestly think is Disney's best accomplishment from the '80s. Honestly, in my opinion. Um, The Secret of NIMH is the last one that we're gonna talk about, and then um, hang on here. And the Little Nemo. Yeah, Little Nemo is the last one we're gonna talk about. So, yeah, Secret of NIMH. Um, I'll say it's definitely a movie that was very creative. Um, it really goes in detail about what it's like to basically be be an animal, and it kind of follows the story of a family, and they're basically being torn apart because of a medical lab that is testing on animals, and it's just a really interesting storyline. Okay, Little Nemo Adventures in Slumberland. Wow, what more could I say about that? Hang on here. So this movie honestly is my favorite movie I've ever watched when I was a kid. Because it's very creative. There was a video game for it as well that was on the NES. It is by far one of the best movies I've ever seen. Um, so essentially, it's about a little boy who is basically obsessed with airplanes and trying to become a pilot. What happens is that he one night basically meets up with these people who come to his room and who want him to journey to this new land. Um, and he befriends all these crazy characters. He also has a pet squirrel. Um, it's also one of the most rarest movies to even own, because it's out of print, and then I don't even think they make it anymore at this point in time. Um, the last one is Nausicaa Valley of the Wind, which is one of the best animated movies from Japan I've ever watched. It is definitely wonderful. I mean, the scenery, the soundtrack, the acting, it is just amazing what they did with that movie. So yeah, those are just a few movies I wanted to mention that are kind of for everybody, that everybody could check out and enjoy. Um, and the next part of the '80s review show, which I'll be doing in a few days, I need to do some research, is we're going to do the top 10 comedy movies from the '80s. And then after that, we'll focus on the best female singers of the '80s. So I'll be back later on in a few days, and you guys enjoy your week.